Right at 17, I just graduated, went and bought a street bike. I broke 3 of my vertebrae, like they shattered together, puncturing my spinal cord, broke my arm, my pelvis, road rash, the whole 9 yards.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Barbells and Bangers. Before we get started, I just want to remind you really quick to check out wellbeingbrewing.com. When you support Wellbeing Brewing, that also helps me and helps support the podcast. So this is non-alcoholic beer. You can check it out, wellbeingbrewing.com. And if you use my code BREBRE, then you'll get 10% off. And that'll also help support me, help support the podcast. So thank you in advance for checking that out. Today, we have a very, very special guest joining us. I have a feeling that this is just going to be an incredible conversation. So the guest that I'm having on today, this young man, he has an incredible story of overcoming odds and just has an unbreakable spirit. So I'm really, really excited to hear from him and hear more kind of in depth about his story and how he went from point A to point B to where he's at now. And also just kind of talk with him about fitness and things that that we may have in common. So I'm very, very excited. I'm going to bring him on right now. Please, let's welcome Sam Primeaux.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Sam, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to fix my screen here real quick.
I was about to ask, is everything normal on that side?
Yes, I can see you. Perfect.
Cool. How are you today?
I'm good. It's Sunday, so, laundry, chores, all that fun stuff. How's your day been so far?
So far, so good. It's pretty chillax. Got some grocery shopping done and then just hung out, went to go ride around the Jeep. So I can't complain.
Yeah, typical Sunday, fun stuff. Yeah, well, I've never met you before. I've only talked to you basically through Messenger, and we've never had a conversation. So I'm so excited to talk to you today. And I guess we'll kind of start from just like the beginning. Like, obviously, a lot of your story is kind of based around what happened. I can't remember exactly how old you are when it happened, but you were in a motorcycle accident, right?
Yeah, when I was 17, so that's right at 6 years ago.
Yeah, and I remember when I clicked on your page, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is insane. I can't believe like just the journey that you've been on and how you've been able to just keep chugging along and keep going and not give up, even though you do have quite an obstacle in front of you. So I guess let's back up a little bit and kind of tell us about, what happened and how you got to this point.
All right. So yeah, right at 17, I just graduated, went and bought a street bike. And dude, I thought I was King Dingaling, rule of the roads. So that lasted like 6 weeks roughly. I was coming home one afternoon, and it was nice and sunny one spot until I hit a little patch of rain, nothing uncommon in South Louisiana. So I'm going through, and this older guy was coming in the opposite lane. I guess he didn't see me. So he took a left out in front of me to get onto his road. So I slid about 20 or 30 feet, hit the truck. And then whenever I hit the truck, I basically dove over it and hit the ground like if you're diving into a swimming pool. So I shattered the whole, like I had a full face helmet on. I shattered the helmet. I broke 3 of my vertebrae, like they shattered together, puncturing my spinal cord, broke my arm, my pelvis, road rash, the whole 9 yards. But my vertebrae puncturing my spinal cord is what left me with paralysis. So I'm paralyzed from about T4 down, which is like right under my nipple level. Like this feels normal. That feels like super tingly. And initially with that type of injury, doctors are like, with this sort of injury, you don't usually see recovery, and people typically live out the rest of their life disabled or, paralyzed. And I was 17. I was like, dude, there's no way you can convince me that I will never be able to walk again. Like I was in so much pain and so much frustration. I was like, no, I'm just not buying it. I can't. So I went, they sent me to a hospital in Texas where they taught you kind of how to like live everyday life in a wheelchair. And the whole time I'm like, dude, teach me how to walk again. And they're like, we can't, there's nothing to work with. And so I just kept doing that. Whenever they sent me back home, thankfully I had some friends here that were like, hey, you need to kind of start compensating. If you only work with 25% of your body, you gotta do something. So I started going to the gym, and oh my God, that's changed my life drastically since then.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy like how many people I've talked to no matter what happened in their life or no matter what their background is, a lot of times the gym is kind of what brings us together, and like that one thing that really changed everything for us. And whether it's just something that gave you confidence or if it's something that helped you overcome a physical obstacle like you have, it's crazy how, yeah, fitness is crazy. It changes everything because it makes you think different too, I feel like.
Dude, yeah, it puts you in a completely different mind frame. Like I feel like with
Yeah.
fitness, I'm so much more proactive, you know, thinking about my next few steps. Whereas I used to be a lot more reactive, you know, it's just you just happen to
Yeah.
whatever circumstances are coming your way. But you're right, fitness definitely does, I think, gear us in a different mindset. And it also kind of got me started, like, and thankfully young, because I was only 17. It taught me a lot about delayed gratification because you're gonna go pick up that same weight 100 times before you see any sort of difference. But it's kind of like you have to blindly trust the process. And as crazy as it sounds, I'm definitely seeing the compound interest build up from just blindly trusting this process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and something that I've really learned over the last few years is that slow progression. It's like, yeah, you don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight, and you don't need to try to achieve this like extremely huge goal overnight. But if you just take small steps every day and be consistent, that's when you really like look back a couple years later and you're like, oh, wow, I've come a long way. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I tried to rush my progress or if I tried to do it all overnight. And I'm so glad you said that because it's something that's so important that I think would help a lot of people progress in other areas of their life too, just by learning that concept through the gym.
Oh yeah, it's made a freaking crazy difference in like everyday life, really. Because whenever you start to understand that, okay, the more I rush it, the more potential setbacks I'm gonna face. Let me actually take a little bit slow, more calculated steps, and bro, it's night and day difference just in all around living. It's crazy, and it's like I also worked in the gym. That was my first job after the wreck. I worked at the Planet Fitness, so it taught me a lot, and I also made tons of friends in the gym. It's like, do you see the ones that did go and rush the process and they got on any type of sauce or whatever gear? It's like 6 months later, yeah, you're benching 2 times what I can. That's cool, but now you look like a freaking a water jug that's all cringed and crinkled, and and it never lasts. And so that's another thing that kind of really put me in a good mindset. It's like, okay, although it's going to take a lot longer and it's going to be a lot harder, I know it's going to last. Like, if I don't go to the gym for a month, I still look about the same. Of course, I choose not to ever do that, but yeah, it's like the less you rush it, and the more you really appreciate the journey you're on, and you focus and appreciate those little small steps, bro, it becomes so critical.
Oh, I know. Well, and I can kind of relate to, I guess, that mindset of and I assume you probably went through a similar experience with your mindset shift after you had that happen. And mine's different cuz mine's an actual illness. I don't know if you know much about my story. I was diagnosed with lupus in 2020. And so for people that listen to my stuff, a lot of them, they also have things they're dealing with, physical limitations. So that's why I think they're going to love this episode. But it was a wake up call for me. I think one, to appreciate what you have when you have it a lot more, because it was so frustrating. Like they told me like I have this disease or whatever, and I thought I had like something temporary, something that I could take a pill and get rid of it. That's what I thought was wrong with me. I'm like, fix me, and they're like, well, we can't fix you. This is what you got. You got to deal with it. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, what medication do I need to take that's gonna make me go back to how I was before? And that wasn't an option. So I imagine you kind of felt a similar thing. Like it's just so frustrating. Like now, like I want to go back. I want to go back right now. I would do anything to go back.
Dude, yes, but it really sucks, but it's also good. Like, just I like to look at it on the positive side, where
Yeah.
it definitely shows me the gratitude. Like, for instance, there's been some times, being in the hospital, especially initially, like I couldn't even get out of bed even if I wanted to, in so much pain, or just couldn't physically move. So now it's like I start every day with just such an appreciative and grateful attitude. The attitude of gratitude, it really does go a really long way. Because I mean, I remember the days that I couldn't even get out of bed. So regardless of what kind of obstacles I know I'm about to face that day, I got out of bed. I'm already winning. And I feel like whenever I start every day with that mindset, it's hard to knock a good day, you know, if you already preset in your mind, like, this is a great day. We already started great, you know?
Yeah, you woke up.
Right.
You got a second chance. Yeah, and it's crazy when you start to think that way, cuz I didn't used to think like that. Like I would just take everything for granted. And and then you really start to appreciate like every single day, and you're like, how can I take today and do something that makes an impact, you know, whether
Right.
it be on, you know, maybe it's my gym progress, or maybe it's working on my goals or career or whatever it is, or maybe it's just family time or building relationships. But I always try to like make sure that every day I'm being intentional, because it's so, yeah, it just makes you look back and think like, man, I should have been living my life this way the whole time.
Right.
It's
Well, at
crazy.
least we're still so young, like whenever all these things happen to us. So I mean, I got the next 80 years looking up, you know, now that I've got this pretty good game plan so far.
Yeah. So when you were, I guess, like you had the accident and all that stuff happen, and then obviously, you know, you're hit with this huge physical limitation. What kind of like flipped that switch in you that was like, no, I'm gonna try to overcome this. I'm gonna try to basically prove everybody wrong. Is what you're basically setting out to do.
Well, I think initially it took a while for me to actually really understand what was going on, because you know they kept saying it in the hospital. I was hearing it, but I wasn't comprehending. I'm like, no, 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 I'm gonna walk again, and they're like, no, you might not. I'm like, watch me. So that I've always been really stubborn. So using that mindset really helped. But I'm also kind of bipolar and depressed as well. So I wasn't necessarily in like the happiest of times during the time of the wreck. So whenever that hit, now it threw me into a deep spiral, and it put me to a point where I was like, okay, look, if I don't, you know, fully recover in X amount of years, I'm gonna just, you know, off myself or whatever, because that felt like my option. But then whenever I got to really thinking about it, it was like, dude, is it fair for me to hurt everyone around me who's done nothing but try to help fix me or help me fix myself? No, that's not really that fair. So I feel kind of obligated, and to prove it to myself mainly, that I can do it. And the more that I've stuck with that attitude and kind of progressively going forward, and I mean, granted, there's plenty of setbacks along the way, but it's like that optimistic outlook of, okay, maybe if I try and this 1% better, that makes or breaks it, or you know, maybe I'm on the next level. That's the stuff that I wake up every morning excited for, because it's like you never know what door you're gonna open, what conversation you're gonna have. And I think if you look at life and each and every day like that, kind of like optimistic, okay, look, this is great. We're already off to a good start. We woke up. We have potential. And I think if I focus on the potential enough and learn how to develop and do something with it, that could be powerful, you know. And I was really fortunate, and it's, well, it's some poor choice of words. I was fortunate to get injured in the time that I did, because now with all the technology and science advancements, stuff like that, like honestly, I do not think that there's not going to be a cure for paralysis. Like I feel like they're on the brink of finding some cures and technologies that can overcome people's physical limitations. But I know for a fact, I have it in my heart that my body's going to do this healing. Like the stem cells are helping, the workouts are helping, all this is all helping. But I think this is something my body can do. I don't need to put a freaking chip in me and I'll be Robo Man, you know, because if I was determined, that'd be sick. But I'm just gonna let my body do its thing.
That's amazing. That's a great way to look at it too. And that's something I kind of didn't really think about, is like, man, imagine having that happen when, you know, it's like the 1950s and they don't have any of this technology, and you got to work even harder to
Oh,
get to that point.
dude, I forget when, but it was like the 19th century. I'd seen some pictures. Like, you should see the wheelchairs they had to roll around. I'm like, bruh, at least I get to push mine. You know, they used to have some little teeny tiny deals, someone will move them. And it's like another thing I like to think of, and I don't know, it's kind of poor choice of words, I guess, but one thing that really helps me keep into a good mindset or perspective is like I've come across people in these big hospitals that are pushing their wheelchair around with a straw. It's like I could at least use my arms to move around. Like I already, like I said, I already started with that advantage, you know, and like how much I regained through the gym and just fitness in general. And I mean, I didn't even necessarily only regain stuff in the gym. It's a lot of stuff that I gained was like perspective, my thought process, the whole mindset of the fitness community. completely changed the way I looked at life and how I operated.
Absolutely. Yeah, same here. I got really, really into fitness after I got sick because I was like, well, I think, and I didn't know, I knew what I knew. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor, but I think I can fix myself a little bit. I think I can at least have a better chance of having a normal life if I do these things. And so I decided, I'm going to start going to the gym again. And I'm going to take it like really seriously this time. And I'm going to learn about the human body and learn how things work, because that's the only way that I'm going to get better is if I strengthen my body. Because I feel like anytime I've been strong physically, I've also been strong mentally. And it's like you kind of fix your problems with the gym sometimes because you learn things through the gym that help you deal with those problems in your regular life. And that's really what it did for me. And it helped me learn how to be consistent, and it helped me learn, progressive overload. And it helped me learn that, yeah, you don't have to do everything overnight. You just got to keep at it and keep pushing. But strengthening my body was the thing that really helped me kind of see like, oh, I can make some real progress here. And I actually got in really good shape. And then I was like, whoa, I wasn't even trying to do this. It just kind of happened as a result of what I was doing. So then I was like, oh, I figured out how to get in shape finally. Like I never knew, because I always was like, I'll go to the gym for a week and then I would stop and then I would go and then I would stop. It wasn't until I got sick that I really got consistent, funny enough.
Right. It's weird how like trauma can change us in our day-to-day lives. Like before my incident, dude, I didn't care not one lick about the gym. I was like kind of naturally athletic, so I was able to play sports and stuff, just get by, just what I was naturally. But then it's like once this happened, it's like there goes any advantage that I came to the table with, you know. But thankfully, I don't know. I feel like the gym is kind of a place where we could all become or get on more even playing grounds, because if I'm able to put in more effort than the next person, then my lifts are going to catch up or my physique's going to look the part. So that's a really cool way to think of it too. And I'm glad you said that. Like I never really cared much about science or anatomy or stuff like that until my accident. And then whenever I started to learn and say, okay, well, look, I really want to recover. How do I optimize all these weights in front of me and all these proteins and all the supplements and stuff? And that I think made a really detrimental help in my rehab process or like recovery process, because bodybuilding is not much different than trying to recover from rehabilitate, because you're going to do the same thing. You're going to break down the muscle or whatever area you're trying to repair. You put in the nutrients, you put in the vitamins, boom, now you're recovered and now you're a little bit stronger. So I just kind of took all the basic principles and stuff I learned about the science and anatomy of how our bodies are and how we work, and just use it to my leverage, my benefit anywhere that I could.
Yeah. So has your diet changed since that happened? Have you really paid more attention to nutrition and things like that?
Oh yeah, like before, dude, I couldn't care less about a diet. I was literally one of kind of like eat fried chicken and do whatever I wanted. But whenever I started to learn about the whole bodybuilding side of it, I was like, oh crap, okay, let me start meal prepping. So I'm not on anything like any strict diets. I'm mainly just trying to focus on like a protein, some carbs, and some greens, just to
That's
kind of keep like,
perfect. Yeah.
an overall like balanced diet. But it's also helped me a lot, like performance wise, but recovery wise makes a big difference. And now that I've been eating certain ways and kind of like understanding my body for so long, now I can see like if I go out and eat some really seasoned food the next day, I can notice if I'm more bloated, because more sodium and things like that. And it's like I have friends, I hear them complain all the time. People complain all the time. It's like, oh, my feet are swollen or this or that. And I'm like, well, what'd you eat last night? Oh, I didn't even think of it. Like that, people don't understand how drastic food can compromise your day-to-day living. It's crazy.
It is, isn't it? And you don't even notice it until you kind of like take it all away for a second, like all the junk food and the fast food. Like you just gotta like take it away for a little bit. And then you realize like how much of it you're eating, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like so much sodium and just like stuff they sneak in that you don't even realize. And you're like, oh my gosh, no wonder I don't feel good.
Right? Especially with how like processed all the foods are nowadays. If you go a week of just eating straight BS and junk food out of the processed food aisles, like you're gonna feel the difference between that and some actual whole foods that you just cooked. It's crazy.
Yeah. What are some things that you like to make regularly? Like, are you a big meat eater? Are you vegetarian? What's your style?
So my normal go-to is either like chicken and rice or steak and rice. Sometimes I do like salmon or tuna, but not as often. I'm not as big of a fan on fish, but fish is a lot cleaner out of the options. I like steak, but if I eat steak for like too long of a consistent period, it kind of like slows up the digestion and the bowels and stuff. So I'm like, kind of stay away from that. Chicken's the easiest and it's cheap. It's kind of like you throw it on the pit, burn it a little bit, and throw some rice is good. And
Yeah.
a lot of people it's weird. Like whenever I got into studying about the bodybuilding, it's like all the big old school bodybuilders are like eat for a purpose, not for pleasure. So it's like people are like, how do you eat the same thing over and over? Because I'm eating for fuel, but really I'm just eating to recharge. Like I'm not looking for that dopamine rush of, ooh, this is my favorite food or this or that. And I feel like whenever people dissociate that rush from certain foods, now they're not as interested in it. It's like candy, for instance. Before, dude, if I didn't have a Reese's a day, I felt like I was like on something. I'm like, where's my Reese's? But now it doesn't necessarily matter. I can go a week without eating my Reese's, and it's like, okay, cool, whatever. But whenever you get it, it's that much more better.
Oh yeah. That's so true too. Cause like whenever I started kind of limiting that a little bit more, it really helped me. Because then now when I do go out to eat or I do go have a nice dinner, it's so much more enjoyable. And I feel like a queen. I feel like somebody's serving me food. I'm like, this is great because I cook all my food.
Like you
But
really appreciate that much more.
yeah, you do. And it's good to have certain things like, be for pleasure and other things to be for like a purpose. Like you said, like nutrition has a purpose. And so you have to pay attention to what you're eating every day and make sure, you're getting enough protein and you're getting your nutrients and making sure that your body's responding well to what you're eating. So paying attention, listening to your body is huge too. And that's probably why you've been able to make so much progress because you're treating your body well and you're giving your body what it needs.
I sure try to, especially because like with being paralyzed, it's like at first the bowels and bladders were so hard to really figure out because you can't feel it as good, obviously. So it's like I had an older bodybuilder friend, Nathan from the gym, teach me. He's like, dude, if you monitor and pay attention to what you're eating, when you're eating, how much you're drinking, whatever, you could understand in pretty much time when you're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. So once I started noticing that, I'm like, wow, now I could not run anatomically. It's just kind of like a lot less of a thought process behind it, which makes life a lot easier. It really helps with the anxiety because if you're so anxious and riled up, you're like, oh, I don't know, what if I have some kind of problem today or something? If I know, okay, now I ate what I had to yesterday and this morning, I'm not gonna have any issues. It makes life so much smoother to just have one less brick on your shoulders.
It does. It really does. And yeah, you're almost like on autopilot. Like you don't even have to think about it. You're like, I like ground beef lately. That's like been my jam, but usually I'm like chicken or fish. So like I'll just kind of rotate things like every once in a while, but I'm like, yeah, I just make my little beef patty and then I like sauce it up and add some rice or some vegetables or some fruit and then I'm like, yeah, I'm good to go. And I don't have to think about it because I eat the same thing pretty much every day. I'll rotate it out, every once in a while, but yeah.
And that's another thing. Like I feel like eating the same or very similar things, it just gives me one less thing to have to worry about or think about. If like my friends give me stuff all the time because I go to the same restaurants, get the same thing every time. They're like, wow, why don't you try new stuff? Because I know I like this. I know this gonna I'm cool with it. And this is one less thing like for cooking. If I know, okay, I'm gonna throw some chicken on the pit, some rice in the rice pot, and some beans. This literally bing, 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 done. Now I just sit around, wait for it to cook, and I'm good. And it's
Yeah.
makes things a lot more sustainable. And same with like balance and stuff too. It's like I don't force feed myself, 200 plus grams of protein a day or this or that, like bodybuilders would do to where they get big. It's like I'm not
Right.
gonna sit there and sit at the table for an hour and smush food down just because I want to get bigger. I'm one of the types like, okay, this is a pretty good enough. It's something I can be sustainable with, and I'm not cutting off every bit of ice cream or junk food on the side. I don't eat as much, but I feel like if you could kind of proportion everything right, that would be a lot more sustainable. Because so many people are getting on these crazy fad diets and stuff, but they're only doing it for a week or two. You lose 10 pounds and you quit and gain 12, and you're like,
Yeah,
well, what do I do? It's like you didn't find what worked for you, what you could balance out with your life. And that's where I think people go wrong a lot with dieting.
that's huge. Yeah. Well, and I think that is, it's just in general with life is like finding what works for you with your situation, because everyone's situation is different. I mean, obviously your situation is different than a lot of people's situations. Mine is different. And so we have to maybe not look at what everybody else is doing sometimes, and maybe we just have to figure it out for ourselves and try different things. And that's why I think I've relied on science so much with my journey, is just because I'm like, well, this is reliable. This is been proven. It's science. So I would just follow the science, and then I would kind of, feel it out and listen to my body and adjust as needed. But yeah, just kind of finding what works for you, and also knowing that there's a blueprint out there that you can follow and you can adjust and make it your own. And with slow progress and with just being consistent, you'll see huge change in a matter of time.
That's
Um, when did you kind of, because you got in the accident when you were 17, right?
Mhm.
And you're how old now?
I'm 23 now.
23. Oh, you're still so young. Uh, okay, so when you were 17, okay, so then when did you kind of start your journey with the gym? When did you get into fitness after that?
So it was probably about like 6 to 8 months in, because I had a couple months like after the wreck. I was in the hospital for at least 2.5, 3 months afterwards. And then whenever I came home, I kind of got settled. So actually, I was probably close to the 6 month mark after, because once I got home, it wasn't but maybe a month max where my friend was like, look, bro, because I was in the dumps. Like my whole plan coming out of the hospital, I was like, I'm going to be a recluse, and, I don't want anyone to see me like this because this isn't me. But thankfully, none of my friends were up for that. They're like, no, they had the parties and still would come hang out and stuff. And whenever they finally got me in the gym, I was, dude, timid, scared, had no self confidence, and the list goes miles long. And I feel like that is really what got me like my rehab progression. That's what's gotten it, because being that I got thrown into gym so soon, it's like, well, shit. Now I'm like mentally at a disadvantage, and physically too. But at least physically, I'm in here. I could try to do something, and it wasn't nearly as bad as what I thought it would be. I'm thinking, oh, people are gonna be making fun of me or taking pictures or whatever, whatever. I got the completely opposite response. People were super uplifting and helpful, and oh, you need this, you need that, we can get this waiting for you, whatever. And I feel like that it really showed me the humanity and the good side of people. Again, it reminded me of that, and it showed me like, okay, your community wants to see you win. You just have to put in the effort, and that personally makes me grind a lot harder, because I know I'm like, okay, someone out there is like, they're counting on me for I don't know what reason, but if they're counting on me, I can't let them down. And it yeah, so that's it's been, yeah, pretty consistent the past 5.5 years. There was a couple of times where I was in the hospital and stuff. Like recently, I was in the hospital for about a month. Yeah, it was a month, on bed rest. And then previously, like before that, it was like 2 or 3 months that I was on bed rest because I had a real bad bed sore. So, dude, that like I thought it was gonna kill my rehab progress. I was like, oh my god, no, I'm taking too much off days. Like, what's gonna happen? I came back 10 times stronger. It was crazy. So, I mean, I'm not telling everybody to just go and quit the gym for 3 months and get back to it, think stronger. It doesn't work like that. But sometimes we need a little rest and relaxation, which I never give myself enough of, but slowly learn how to do that.
Yeah, I do the same thing too. And it's important to have that balance of rest and also that go 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 and that drive. And when you're, especially when you're stubborn like you said you are and like I am, it's hard to do that sometimes, cuz I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm never doing enough. I'm like I could be doing more. I could always be doing more, and I'm just always like putting so much pressure on myself. I'm like, you got to do more. You got to do more. And it's like, well, maybe sometimes you just need to like, you know, accept the circumstances and just be like, okay, maybe I do need to like chill for a second.
Right. I should let my body take a little chill day, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But it's great though that we're like that, and it's great that you have that drive and you have that motivation, because that's not something that you can just create. I mean, and I think a lot of people think that, you know, you just wake up and you're like, yeah, I'm motivated, but it's like, that's not real. That's not how it works. Like, you got
No.
to still do a lot of work to get motivated and to get to the gym or to get to working on your goals. So what really drives you? Like, what are some of your goals? What do you want to do with your story and with everything that you're doing right now? I mean, I saw you're creating content and you have a small business, which I want to know more about. And then yeah, just you're doing a lot, so I'm excited, but I want to know what your goals are.
So goal oriented, like I definitely want to overcome paralysis, and I've set the goal recently. I want to climb Pikes Peak, and the reason for that is like whenever the guy was like, "All right, what do you want your rehab goal to be? You want to walk? You want to run?" And I was like thinking about it. I was like, my thought, like the first thing that came to my head was like, "What's the hardest thing a human can do? Climb." So yeah, I want to climb a mountain. And he was like, kind of raised the eyebrows. I was like, "All right, well here, let's run it." So the reason I want to do that is because one, I feel like I've already done it, so why can't I do it again? Type thing. That's my mindset. And really, it's the reason I want to set the bar so high is because even if I do just get to the point where I could run a marathon, that's a big win, you know. But I feel like I could climb a mountain, and I think my biggest driver is like the fear of living the rest of my life like this. Like, yeah, I've had a great life in a wheelchair and disabled or whatever, but it comes with a lot of pain, a lot of problems, a lot of extra stuff that people don't see behind the scenes that I would prefer not to have to deal with the rest of my life. And I have a lot of friends that are really old, like a lot older in the wheelchairs and stuff, and they're like, they give me all their, you know, their scoop on the problems they have to face, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that for the next 60, 70 years. You know, I'm good on that. And I feel like I'm so young. It's like, why not? I could literally try for the next 20 years. If I failed for the next 20 years, then maybe I could go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, maybe I should need a new plan. But until then, I'm just going to keep chirping away at it. And I like to set the really big goals because although it'll make you anxious or like overwhelmed, if you're able to break it down, it helps you move towards that direction. Because I think direction is a lot more important than speed. Like if I just focus on forward, no matter
Yep.
how it looks, like making those forward progression, that's kind of what satisfies me. It's like that's what gives me happiness, is seeing something get changed. Like, you know, before the accident I'd cut grass and that made me happy because you go see like a really bushy crappy looking yard and you go and edge it up and get it all nice and fix up the flower beds, and you're like, it's that instant gratification, like the dopamine rush. And now it's like my little small dopamine rushes are from like little progressions and stuff, little milestones I'll set. And I think with my story, I've said it so many times that I think I'm starting to like visualize it in the dream realm, I guess, because I'm starting to have dreams about it. But I think my story has potential to be like the next Forrest Gump. Like I see this being in books, a movie. Like I feel like this is really the underdog success story of the 21st century. I just have to finish it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why another reason I've been wanting to push the content. So I'm like, okay, let me at least learn and see what people actually like and respond to. And at a local level, I've been having people get really, really motivated and told me some really like, you know, kind of it grabs my heart. It's like, you know, one dude was like, "Man, you're my hero." As a younger guy, I was like, "Man, that's cool as fuck for me to think like I'm someone's hero." It's like I've never been
Yeah.
a model in someone's life, so thinking about it, I'm like, that kind of it puts a responsibility on me without putting a responsibility. I just kind of like, okay, so if there's kids like him or other people that are going through either, you know, emotional, physical, mental problems, it's like I feel like if I could at least get one piece of content through that person's phone, it might really help them. That might be the day that they really need. Like at the beginning of content, I'd kind of get discouraged because it's like, oh man, I think this video is so awesome, and you get 3 likes on it, and you're like, oh man, forget this. I hate this app. I'm done with my phone. But now I look at it like, okay, maybe one of those 3 people really needed to see that today. Other than that, cool. You know, anything else is just a win. And then there's a couple of them that throwing noodles at the wall and they hit. So I'm trying to figure it out and take my notes so they don't all just get 3 likes and they can actually hit, you know? And then I
Yeah.
think with the company, this is gonna be the next Nike. I just have to learn how to put it together, you know?
Yeah, that's always the hard part for me is like the execution. Like I have all these ideas and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think we talked about that on one of my posts or something about just like all the technical stuff. It's like, man, this is not my thing, but you know what? I'm gonna try to make it happen and pull it off with what I've got and the knowledge
Right.
that I have. But you learn so much in the process though. It's fun.
And it's like for me personally, I've waited a lot, like especially with like the podcast and just BS and stuff. I've been waiting for the perfect time, the perfect time. Perfect time's never gonna arrive. But if you at least start now or start wherever you're at, then you can start to say, okay, I'm missing this or I could fix that. That's whenever you start being able to identify and ask those questions, that's when the perfect time starts coming a lot closer, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like you kind of create the perfect time yourself because yeah, you can I mean and that happens for some people. They're at the right place at the right time and they get lucky and that's fantastic, but for most people like we can't rely on that. We have to rely on just taking action and taking action now because
Right.
if we wait, like I said I was going to start my podcast over 3 years ago and I just started it this year. So I was just kicking myself after I did the first episode because I was like, that's it. I was
That
like,
like not as bad as you thought it was.
that was it. That's all I had to. I'm like, why didn't I start doing this a long time ago? And so I think taking that leap and making that jump kind of like changed the way I look at other things too. Cause I'm like, yeah, why not just do it? It's like, who cares if people think, whatever they think, I don't care. I'm like, I'm just doing this for me because like we only have one life. So I can't sit here and be like worried about what people are going to think about me or worried if it's going to work or worried if I'm going to fail. Because if I sit here and worry about that, then I'm never actually going to do it. And then I'm really going to fail because to me, failing is just never trying it.
Right. Or giving up because you
Yeah.
only fail when you stop trying.
Yeah, and that's what happens with a lot of people too when like they start a podcast or they start creating content or whatever or just anything really. Is they'll do it for a while and then when they don't see that instant gratification, then they quit and they might have been this close to hitting it and to making it all work. So that's why it's so important to stay consistent and I'm glad you're doing that too. I'm glad you started sharing your content cuz your story is incredible
Thank you.
and I think it'll help a lot of people. I really do. And there's nothing more gratifying than that, than knowing that you're helping people get motivated or you're helping inspire people. To me, that is worth more than any amount of money or any amount of fame, is just impacting people in that way.
That's a fact. Like whenever I started the brand, that's kind of what made me start it. It's like a lot of people in the community kept coming up to me and saying, "Man, you're motivational, or you inspire me, or this, or that." And it's like at first I almost took offense to it. I'm like, a guy just trying to live his normal life is an inspiration to you. But then when I really started to understand what inspiration was, and like I have a personal inspiration in the community. So it's like being able to look at them and look at their journey and like, wow, if he could do it, why can't I? Why can't I? Then I'm like, oh, okay, this is what the whole inspiration thing's about. So if me going and doing my workout or doing these posts or whatever, if that in turn makes that kid want to push a little bit harder to say either go make their channel or go and make their workout or whatever, it's like it's like you said, it's a gratifying feeling. And I've been in a lot of times where it's like I've needed help and people have helped me, so I know how amazing that feels to receive it. So I like being on the opposite side, to help however I can, because I know, hey, they might have really needed it even more than they're saying, and it's definitely a powerful thing in my opinion.
It is. And even just, you'd be surprised what all it takes to motivate someone. I mean, it might be one sentence that you say that changes somebody's entire life. And
Right.
when I think about that, I'm like, wow. Like, it's incredible because that's been the case for me at times. Like there was maybe a book I read or a podcast I listened to, and it really made me think differently and it made me take action on something. And the fact that I have the ability to do that, whether, I do it for 2 people or 2,000 people, it doesn't matter. The fact that you have the ability to do that not only motivates me to keep doing it, but also to lead by example and do all the things that that you need to do and be a good person and try to get better every single day. You know, it motivates me right back. Like it's almost like we're kind of transferring energy back back to each other.
Right. It definitely reciprocates itself. And it's like, it's the gift that keeps on giving, because if I inspire you, you might go out and do something great, which inspires the next guy and then the next guy and the next. And so it's really cool. And in the world we live in nowadays, everyone's so glued to our phones, and a lot of people are pushing like such the wrong morals and stuff. I feel like it'd be a good thing to start. Hey, look, treat people how you want to be treated. And, you know, if you inspire someone to be great, like, a lot of great things could happen. But I mean, I'm sure on the flip side, it could be, you know, the same. If you're doing crappy stuff, you could maybe inspire someone to do that. But I don't know. I haven't done that in years.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, when you start making content and you start like noticing that people are paying attention to what you're saying and what you're doing, then yeah, it does kind of like help you motivate yourself to kind of hold yourself to a higher standard, because you're like, oh, there's people watching me. Like I need to, you know, make sure that I'm being intentional with my actions and how I'm treating people. And it does make you like just want to be a better person and lead by example. Because I think that's the best way to influence people is instead of trying to like, because like I always used to be with my friends where I'd be like, oh, you guys got to go to the gym, you got to go to the gym, you got to work out, and like that doesn't work. Like just telling people to do something doesn't work. When they see you doing it and they see what it does for you, that's when people get motivated. They don't get motivated by somebody just pushing and pushing and pushing them when they don't have a why. They don't have a why like you do. So you have to create that why, and you have to show them, hey, this is why I do this, because it helps XYZ, and I'm a better person because of it. I'm more confident, and that's really how you can get people to do something. And that's when I kind of realized, when I look back on people who've influenced me, I realized that's what it was. It was because I saw their life and I was like, oh, they're killing it. I want to be like that. And so I just looked at what they were doing.
Hey, and it's
Yeah.
so it's weird. And like in this space for me, it's like there's a ton of people that I've come across that have been paralyzed and fully recovered, especially not this long out. So it's like it's hard looking for it. So I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm just gonna be the shining light, and I'm Christopher Columbus cutting through the jungle. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm starting to be a little more methodical with it, and it's definitely starting to show. Like I've been having a lot of people reach out for, you know, either asking tips on how to gain independence or how to do this workout or how to progress with this. And it's like I don't really have a one size fits all thing. You know, every injury is so much different. But it's like I could tell you a bunch of stuff that I did and I failed at, and either you could try it or don't. You know, whatever. But I definitely think, and I kind of it motivates me even more because, like you said, it's like you kind of hold yourself to that higher standard. You know, leading by example. And I feel like I'm in a space where there's not a lot of people that are able to lead, or if they are, then I'm just doing a bad job at finding them. I don't know, but I guess shining light and like, look, guys, that's what I'm doing. You can try it or not, whatever.
Yeah, well, you definitely have a unique story. And I think that's huge. And I think there are probably a lot of people out there looking for you. Like,
Right.
hey, where's my guy? Where's my guy that's supposed to, you know, tell me how I'm going to get through this? And because that's always been what it is for me with like, whether it be, I don't know, business person or a podcaster or even like comedians. Like Theo Vaughn has been a huge influence on me, and people like that, where I listen to what they say and I see what they're doing, and it really does impact me. And but you always want to find people who have a similar story to you in some way that you can relate to, and I think that's what you have. You have something that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to, maybe not in the same exact way, but maybe they have a different obstacle they're going through. Maybe it's not even a physical obstacle. Maybe it's something else. And they're going to take the concept that you've used and apply it to whatever their situation is. And I think that's so important, is finding just authenticity in general is something that we don't have enough of. And it's great when you can find it, and you can find somebody who has a story like, hey, this guy's actually been through something. They haven't had their whole life handed to them, and they're trying to preach at me and tell me how to live my life when they haven't experienced what I've experienced. Because to me, that was always like the biggest thing that would like turn me off when I saw somebody like, you know, preaching about whatever motivation life. It's like, okay, well, have you been through XYZ and how did you overcome that? Because we're coming from two different places here. So somebody is going to see your story and think, oh, this is my guy. Like, this guy's going to help me get through this. And that's great. And so you have the business too. And how did how did that happen?
So it was probably like 2.5 to 3 years into my fitness journey. And at this point, like I'd already become very routine, I guess you'd call it. Like, because whenever I was working at the gym, I was working, I was in school, going to therapy. So I would, you know, go to my rehab in the morning, go to school, and I'd have a lunchbox full of 5 plates, and I would be at the gym eating, you know, either on the clock or about to go work out, and people like, what the heck are you doing? So I tell them like, oh yeah, I'm trying to walk again. So they're like, you're in the gym for 5 hours a day because of that? I'm like, yeah. So people kind of consistently started seeing that. And like I said, about two or 3 years into the journey, people are like, dude, you're freaking badass. This is motivational. This is inspiring. And so like one day, a younger guy come up and told me that. He's like, dude, I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but you're a badass. Like, this is really cool seeing you in here grinding. Like, I have no excuse. And I was looking, I'm like, what could I do with that? I'm like, I was just graduating college at the time. I figured out that I didn't want to sit at a desk all day and do AutoCAD, you know, draw up houses. So I'm like, looking around, you see Nike, Under Armour, Gymshark, all the big brands. I'm like, man, what if I made a brand and kind of help show people like we all are, you know, we're all able to do amazing things whenever we don't limit ourselves. And I was like, okay. And like my thing, I've always been a gorilla. I don't know if you can see it, but that's a big gorilla tattoo. So I'm gonna make a brand. I'm gonna call it Gorilla Genetics. All my friends are like, please don't do that. That would not work at all. Like, okay, well, shit. So we're in the gym and I'm just throwing around ideas. And then I hit Inner Animal. And they're like, hold up, that sounds pretty cool. Like, look that up. I Googled it. I couldn't find anything with Inner Animal. So I was like, oh, all right, cool. What do I do next? My buddy was an auto lawyer and he was in our workout group. He's like, dude, go home, get an LLC, get this and that. So I was like, oh, yeah, boom. Got the credit card out. Let me get all this stuff. I got all this paperwork. And I was like, okay, what do I do with it now? So I ordered a bunch of random shirts and brought it to some guy in the mall to print on. Then this logo that I found, and we kind of tweaked and moved some stuff around. And that's kind of where it started. And I just kind of trial and error, because like I'm no fashion guru. I don't know nothing about, you know, fashion in a sense, but I do know practicality. I know that my products are, if they can hold up with what I'm putting them through, someone else will be able to use them. And I'm really hopeful that like as the story prolongs and I'm able to kind of, I guess, articulate how I want to put the message out there, because I feel like I have some really cool and good morals that would help people. I just want to figure out how to fine tune the wording on it, I guess. But I think it really could move mountains for people. Like, if I've had customers tell me, dude, I put on your shirt and I just feel stronger. I feel the courage, you know, because it associates with me. And it's like, if I can give everyone that piece of courage or confidence or like that extra little bit of savageness that they need in a day, I think that's a win, you know, regardless of how far or wide it goes. And I mean, for me, just guessing, it's gone pretty far. I mean, this is year 3. This October will be the 3rd year. It's like the midst of COVID. And I'm like, yeah, let me start up a clothing business. And still trucking. So I can't complain.
That's amazing. And you're going to have to send me like links and stuff so we can check it all out.
Definitely.
I'm excited. So that's great, because every like great brand always has like a really good story behind it. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because, and you mentioned like Gymshark, Nike. It's like, yeah, when I wear Gymshark and I go to the gym, I wear it because it makes me feel more confident. And it helps me, like, because when I feel confident, I have great workouts. When I don't feel confident, I don't have great workouts. So I like to look good when I go to the gym because it makes me feel good and it makes me just like more motivated. And I think that's so important. And yeah, anytime if people are saying that your clothing is making them feel more confident, that's great, because that means you're onto something there.
That's what I think too. Like, because, and it's weird you said Gymshark, because initially, like at the start, that was my go-to brand. I don't even know how I come across it, but I was like, oh, dude, these are pretty cool shirts, you know. And like you said, makes me feel more confident. Like that's another thing that the gym has blessed me with. I think it's a superpower. Like, and you don't notice it because before the wreck, I didn't know that I lacked self-confidence. I just thought the ways that I behaved were normal. But whenever you gain confidence and you're like, oh wow, I used to do this, that, and the next because I was scared or felt sorry for myself. And like I'm not the most confident guy in the world, I don't think, but I definitely do, or I'm able to see how far I've come and I take appreciation in that. So that's where the confidence comes from. Because I remember what it feels like especially making these recent videos, it's like going back 6 years ago and seeing how small I was in a small t-shirt. And now I'm like filling up mediums and larges. And I'm like, all right, look, no matter what the little guy in my head has to say, you're looking good. So, too bad. And it really helps fuel like the drive even farther, I guess, because it's one thing to like know that okay, I'm gonna blindly trust this, and one day my goal is gonna be there in my face. But it's another thing to be able to see it and be like, until then, you still got some banging arms or some big, whatever, just to kind of like amp yourself up and not in an egotistical way like a lot of people do and mistake that for confidence because going around and telling everybody that you're big shit doesn't ever mean that you're anything big. It's kind of like I had to get strong enough to pull myself out of some really dark holes. And in turn, I've been able to become so strong I'm pulling other people out of their holes. And I feel like that kind of brings confidence too, because I feel like out of anything in this world, if I have nothing monetary, that's my worth. At least I'm worth that. And I felt like finding your self-worth and your purpose and that confidence, it makes every day just that much better.
It's huge. It's everything. And I still have days that I don't feel super confident, but I definitely snap out of it a heck of a lot faster than I used to. It used to be weeks or months, sometimes years that I would just like not be feeling. I'm like, like always comparing myself to other people and never good enough. And then now I have this confidence and it makes all those things possible that I thought were impossible is what it
Right.
does. You have to, and you kind of do have to be a little crazy. You you have to have a little bit of that like crazy and I'm sure like you probably dealt with this for people just they think you're crazy, that
Oh
they
yeah.
think you dream too big, you're nuts. But I think you have to have that in order to do those things, because if you don't believe that those things are possible, then they're not going to happen. You have to have that belief first, and then you have to take the action. And that's what those two things, when you combine the belief with the action, that's when great things happen.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. And it's like a lot of people, I feel like maybe struggle trying to chase the dream because they're not fully sound and they don't fully believe in themselves. It's like, and I understand why, because people from the outside, they're going to shut it down all day, every day. If they're looking at the stats and saying, this ain't probable, kid, I don't give a shit. And one of the things earlier on in my journey that really helped me was Arnold Schwarzenegger's like 5 rules to success. And number one is ignore the naysayers. So like you said, like one line sentences can completely make or break somebody. Like that for me completely reshifted my focus. Cause I mean, I got my doctors, my family members, my friends, everyone around me. They're like, hey, it's okay if you're paralyzed, we still love you. Like everyone kind of, they didn't want to break it to me, but they're like, this kid's crazy. Like it's not going to happen. Whenever I really implanted like to ignore that, cool. Yeah. You could show me a million stats to show that, yeah, these people got paralyzed and they're always paralyzed. I'm gonna be that one. I want to be that one. And I mean, I'm sure there's been other people that have recovered, but I just definitely know without a doubt that that's me. I'm the one in that sense. And just by completely ignoring, like, yeah, I'll listen to the naysayers and I'll observe and analyze what they have to say, but it doesn't mean I'm going to change my path of direction, at all from it. Because I've had like probably a year and a half ago or so, at the gym I train at, there was a neurosurgeon. He's like, man, I've been a neurosurgeon for the past 20 years and blah, 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 give me his stats. And he's like, son, I hate to break it to you, but you're not going to walk again. I'm like, you want to watch? And recently I've been training at the same time that he's in there, and I'm standing, dumping sweat, and I get his little nod of approval. I'm like, yeah, Pop, who's not going to walk again? Uh-huh. Yeah, not maybe you, Uh, super
Yeah, you're like,
gratifying.
you don't know me, son.
Yeah, got that dog in me. I love that shit. Like I don't necessarily thrive off of proving people wrong, but it's the ones that I can see the reaction. Ooh, I eat that shit up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, stupid.
Yeah, because you're like, yeah, you don't know me. You don't know me. I like to do things that people tell me I can't do. That's one of my hobbies.
Hey,
You know?
growing up.
That's hilarious. So and it's funny you mentioned that because I was trying to think about like this week. I'm like, what's really like what keeps me motivated? What keeps me wanting to always prove people wrong, overcome the odds, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, I think a lot of it has to do with just like how much I'm into MMA and combat sports. And I don't know if that's something that we've talked about at all. If I don't know. I think you mentioned that you were maybe casual MMA fan. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I
Um
definitely love. Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable about it or anything, but like if the fights are on, I love to watch it. As a matter of fact, there's a fighter, Dustin Poirier, from my local our community.
yeah.
It's pretty cool seeing him around. But yeah, I have mad respect for fighters because I have a few friends that train in these local gyms, and it's like, dude, I see the work they put. So although hey, look, we're working hard on two separate goals or two separate roads, I got to give them respect for where it's due because like I've seen people take a knee to the face and keep going. I'm like, okay, that's you bought my.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say if you haven't started watching it, I'm like you should get in. Come on, you will love it because it's that mentality that like that's what fighters have. They have that mentality of like proving people wrong and just overcoming things that yeah, you would not think. Like there was a fight this weekend and the guy got like cut real bad and he was losing the fight and then he ended up winning the fight in the last like at the last minute. It was crazy. And it was one of the craziest fights I've seen in a while, but I think that's like where I get a lot of inspiration from is from watching that cuz I'm like, wow, they could come back from getting, you know, their whole face cut open and getting kneed in, like you said, kneed in the face and then still coming back and winning a fight. And it inspires me so much. And I think that a lot of that community would be inspired by you too because it's that similar mentality and you're proving that impossible is only impossible until you make it possible, really.
Right. And I big appreciation for like the fighter's mentality because it's all about resilience. It's all about, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving. And
Yep.
like the more I tell myself that, it's like I've had days where it felt like Mike Tyson was smacking me upside the jaw, but I continue to press on. And I feel like even though it might be a microscopic level, it's like those little micro tears and breakdowns, same concept to build muscle. Like you're building new tolerances to bad days or stressors. Like, one day you have a bad day at therapy, you go out to a flat tire, and then don't you know the gas station up the road with the air pump's broken, dude. I'm like, "Ugh." But thankfully it tested me, but I didn't break down, and I was able to get it solved. And it's like, okay, cool, because Sam from 6 years ago would have had a freaking meltdown and flashed out and just been a child about it. So it's really cool. Like I hate having bad days like that, but it's nice and refreshing to see, okay, at least I'm growing in some areas, because on our mental side, it's like you can't necessarily see your growth until you're putting it to the test. It's like I can look in the mirror and say, okay, my arms are growing, cool, but like has my thought process changed? Has my tolerance changed? And I try to refrain from having bad days, but if I do have one, it's like, yep, just take it to the chin and keep on going. But like I said, I got mad respect for them because they do that shit for fun.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah, I love watching it and I just yeah, it is one thing that really does help me stay motivated. And I think you get that from going to the gym too cuz you see other people there that you're like, "Man, this guy's been there like every single day this week." Like, what is he doing? I'm like, "I need to step it up." And just yeah, I mean, iron sharpens iron. That's just how it works and when you're around people or you're observing people that are doing challenging things and you're watching them overcome them, I think there's nothing more motivating than that. And I think that's why, obviously people are going to love your content and love what you're doing. So it's super, super exciting. Just, yeah, anytime there's a new like inspirational person or somebody who's overcome the odds, it's always great because then it's like, oh yeah, it's not just that one guy, that one guy that makes me it's not just David Goggins. There's other people too.
Oh, dude, I've been I made a few YouTube videos and I put like David Goggins mentality, and some dude was like, you're not David Goggins. David Goggins would be scared of you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, no, David Goggins would probably kill me. What do you mean?" But David Goggins he's like a person I look up to. So I was like, you know what? Why not?
Oh
Try to
yeah.
make on YouTube. But who knows? Maybe me and him will be running up a mountain one of these days before
Yeah, you
long.
guys should collab. That would be amazing.
Dude, that would be freaking sick. David Goggins, if you hear this, hit me up.
You never
I want
know.
to Rogan.
You really never know. The internet's crazy. That's something I've learned.
Yes, crazy stuff from, like I said, for videos that I think are either garbage or I'm just like, look, I'm just throwing a noodle at the wall with this one, and they freaking hit. I'm like, what? I put no effort into this. What's going on?
Yeah,
But
it's always the ones you spend like 5 seconds on. And then the ones you spend hours on, it's like they get like 2 likes. You're like, dang it.
right, dude, I put my heart into this one. No one cares about it. What the.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
definitely I've found my why on my content. Like I really want to help uplift and help save some other people, like the challenges that I had to go through and the hardships. It's like if I could at least give you one key ingredient to help your day move a little bit easier, it's not going to hurt me any. If it helps you some, okay, it makes it a little bit worth it because I understand and I've got the grasp that I'm not going to be an overnight superstar. So I'm not waiting for that just to wake up to 1 million followers or
Right.
whatever it is. Kind of I'm enjoying the journey that I'm in my life. So it's okay. I don't mind to document it. It's a little bit more like work, a couple more steps, but I think if it could actually benefit someone, it's going to be worth it in the long run for me.
Oh yeah. Well, and then you're gonna look back to like down the road and you're gonna be able to see like your whole journey documented. And I think that's the coolest thing about it is just almost for yourself too. Just being able to go back and be like, oh my gosh, look at this video of me from a few years ago. And then look where I'm at now. And it's so cool to see your progress or also just to kind of look back at things and learn from them and learn from your mistakes and grow from documenting everything because I think it is a really powerful tool in progressing your life is documenting it.
Ooh, yeah.
And I didn't really expect that. But now I really do appreciate that part of it. And I pay attention. Like I'll go back and like watch old stuff sometimes just to like remind myself where I started and like okay, give yourself a little bit more credit because this is where you came from. We went from zero to here. So I think yeah, just being consistent is the biggest thing. Being yourself and not worrying about what other people think, and just telling your story and because people want to hear it and you have to sometimes remind yourself that because you're
Uh,
like, why do people want to hear me talk? You know?
I'm boring. Why do people care? But that's I really do care. So I'll keep talking my shit, and being authentic. Because it's like the more I try to, I guess, make myself look any sort of way, it's like if I can watch the video and feel like I'm not being genuine, I don't like it. And if my heart's not in it, I don't want to put it out. So I'm not perfect. I'm authentic. I'm no hero like people think I'm. But hey, I'm just Sam, and I'm gonna keep being Sam. I don't know if I'll be the next David Goggins or next Forrest Gump, but I'll be the first Sam Primeaux, and hopefully that mofo hits a lot harder than both of them. That's the goal.
100%. Yeah. Well, and it's been great, getting to know your story. Obviously, this is the first time we've talked, so it's been just yeah, I was really excited about this. And we'll wrap up soon, but I before we do, I want to get to know like who Sam is. Like what are some other things that you're into like besides the gym and besides your business? What else do you like to do?
Man, you pretty much named most of it. No, I mean, lately I've been doing another schooling course. So I'm doing like a business course, trying to figure out how to like sharpen the brand identity, I guess you call it, of Inner Animal and start getting those messages more defined. So that's kind of like numero uno for me, like because the finances side, it's like I'm so tired of having to freaking try to fundraise and stuff. Like I'm very thankful that people have been willing to help donate and stuff to help for the stem cells and whatnot. But it's like I would really like to be able to afford it to where I don't have to keep asking because I know if it's this expensive, this short out, I can only imagine what it would be, you know, more treatments or farther down the line. It's like, you have to be wealthy to be healthy nowadays. It seems like, and it's complete bullshit, but that's just the reality of the world we live in. So I definitely am prioritizing my business lately in order for me to try to be able to, you know, more financially independent, I guess. And but then that I like to relax a lot, soak up some sun, because bro, it's although it's like super hot, it's like I think it hit 95 or something today. We're in South Louisiana, but I love the hot. So I've been doing that and really just trying to figure out and articulate the messages that would mean something to someone. Because like one thing about me that's not a lot of people, I guess, know, understand, or maybe not care. It's like it's harder for me to make content because I'm not the one that's going to sit there and scroll for hours. It drains me. If I'm on the apps for, you know, a few hours a day to find trends or do whatever like the other people do, I'm like, dude, I don't even want to make anything. I don't even want to talk anymore. You know, it's like, I don't care. So I'm literally just kind of like I'm like, if I see a video and like the audio hypes me up, I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna freaking throw a bunch of videos, because I've got thousands of videos from over the years. Like I just set up my phone and video me so many fails and this and that. And I never posted it because I didn't have that confidence. Now I'm like, okay, if someone's gonna roast me about my chicken legs or my big ears, like I'll cry about it later, I guess, you know. But I think lately, bro, I've just been doing a lot of thinking. I've been working on a book too. I want to do some sort of like mentality ebook or something. And it's really interesting having to like dig into my mind and write and relive some of those like traumas and some of those weird patches in my life in order for me to make the story. I'm like, oh man, it doesn't necessarily peel the band-aid or reopen the wound, but it's kind of like it's still a little fresh, you know. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, but other than that, yeah, just the gym, the business, trying to learn and prove myself. Because dude, I really do see an amazing man in the mirror when I look in it. Like I feel like I'm destined for a lot of great things. It's just not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work. So that's another thing that kind of drives me. It's like I see what the potential me can be. So if I weren't able to get it, I would feel like not ashamed, but I don't know. I would feel like I wasn't giving myself enough effort. And at the end of the day, it's like effort is the easiest thing you can put in. Because regardless of like how extraneous it is, if you just showed up and tried, you really can't say anything other than that. You know, if you failed, okay, you failed, but at least I tried. But I definitely, I want to find some new hobbies too, but it's like, I'm like a popular loner for the most part. I have like a, you know, small select group of friends that I'll chill with like regularly. But other than that, it's kind of like, hey, you know, what's up? I see you out and about, and then I go about my way. And it's never not from any particular reason. It's just like I've been my whole life. And I kind of like it, kind of don't. But at this stage of the game, I feel like it's kind of like necessary because I'm young and I have all this momentum behind me. If I were to kind of like neglect attention and put it on another part of my life or something, I would hate to see either the therapy or the business fall because of another area of my life. So I'm like, I'll just, you know, chill and figure it out myself, you know. But what about you? I'm curious too, because you have lupus. I've never heard of that, like until I saw you posting about it. And so like I'm kind of ignorant. I'm curious to see like what's that, or what's living a day-to-day life with something like that.
Yeah. So lupus is an autoimmune disease. It's it's an interesting one because they call it the great imitator, because it can imitate so many different illnesses, and it treats everybody differently. So there might be somebody else with lupus that has a completely different experience than I do. There might be somebody that has lupus that has no symptoms at all. And there's extreme cases of lupus. Like, I don't know if you're familiar. Well, Selena Gomez, she's like one of the most famous people on earth, but but she has lupus, and she actually had to get a kidney transplant because of lupus. So it can go to that extreme. It can be very mild. It can go into remission. I've never had it go into remission. I've always had some type of symptoms, whether it be something minor or something that interferes with my everyday life. But the main things that affects me would be, I guess, the chronic fatigue is the main one that kind of, I guess, would hinder my everyday life the most. And then also just joint pain, joint damage too, like to where it's like I don't even have to get injured. It's like my joint could just, you know, be messed up for no reason, which is like so annoying. But I work through it, and you know, I do ice bath and I do all kinds of recovery stuff to try to help. But yeah, chronic fatigue, joint pain, those are like the main things. And then you just got to be careful. So you got to take care of yourself. You got to, you know, I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke cigarettes. You know, I don't put I try to eliminate as many toxins going into my body as I possibly can, because I know every single thing is just going to build up and make those symptoms flare up more. So yeah, so the main triggers with lupus are going to be stress. Also just like the sun, can be like, if I'm out in the sun for a long time, then I might be like have a fever the next day or fatigue.
Really?
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, it's kind of an annoying thing for me. Like, it's not necessarily like I have cancer or I'm like dying or anything like that. It's just annoying. It's like you wake up every day and you kind of feel like you kind of have the flu a little bit. You're like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything today. So like it's a struggle every morning to like get up and get going. Once I get going, I'm good. It's just getting going is the hard part, because it's like you feel like you got hit by a train. Like your back hurts, your legs hurt, you're sore, and it's like, I didn't even work out yesterday. Why am I so sore? But that's the main thing. And then just being aware, I think, of what lupus could potentially do if I let everything go. And if I stop eating healthy, if I stop working out, I'm like, I know what will happen. It's a very slippery slope to go down. Because I know there are people with lupus that have seizures, they have, you know, organ problems, they've got serious joint damage, they've got like, they need to get hips replaced and stuff, you know, like it can get to the point where it's just completely out of control and where you lose control of your life really as a result of it. So I think my main goal with lupus has been, okay, let me just try to prevent as much of that as possible, and try to, like, I know I'm not going to live like a normal life. Like, I'm never going to feel 100% every single day. Like, that's probably unachievable. Maybe it'll go into remission one day, and maybe they'll find a cure. That'd be fantastic if they found a cure in my lifetime. But I think it's just still so unknown, and it's not super, super common. So it's like, it's obviously the priority right now is probably to find cures for cancer and things like that, which is good because those things are fatal. And lupus can be fatal too, but in a different way. It's more of like lupus caused this, which then, you know, caused XYZ. It's not like lupus just kills you. It's like maybe you have a blood clot or a stroke or something that was triggered by lupus, or your lupus got out of control to the point where you were more susceptible to something like that happening. So it's a very interesting disease. Not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people really understand it. And I think that's part of why there's no cure for it, is because we just have to figure out more about it and learn about it more in order to be able to fix it. So that's why fitness for me was such a big part of my life, because, you know, your immune system is very, very dependent on your nutrition and how you're treating your body. So I'm like, and not that I have a low immune system, because it's actually the opposite. My immune system is overactive. So basically what lupus does is my body, my immune system is attacking the healthy cells along with the bad ones. So it's not just fighting viruses, it's fighting everything, which is not what you want. And so that's where that, you know, fatigue, joint pain, it can cause, I have a lot of brain fog from it. So like, I always tell people, I'm like, if I forget things, or if I just like am like lost in a conversation or something, I'm like, don't take it personal. Cause like, my brain sometimes is just like, it's a little foggy up there, you know, there's some clouds and I need to, you know, maybe take a second for my brain to like clear up. But that's a big thing that happens too. And that's really lupus kind of attacking your brain. And that's why a lot of people with lupus have depression and have some mental effects from it as well. which I've had depression pretty much my whole life, but it definitely did get worse whenever I got diagnosed, because I was like, oh, well, I'm going to be like this the rest of my life. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I don't want to deal with this. But then I kind of like you were saying, like I flipped my perspective of not letting this control my life and instead thinking like, well, maybe I can cure it. You know, maybe I can get rid of this if I just work hard enough at it, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. And I think that was the hardest part for me, was like I would keep trying and keep trying. And then like people would be like, oh, well, you know, you have lupus, so this is just how your life is going to be. And I'm like, okay, that's, you know, I get it. Like that's kind of how it is for most people. But I kind of want to figure out if there's a way to at least get to the point where I don't have symptoms. I'm like, that's like my ultimate goal, is to at least get to the point where I don't have symptoms that are interfering with my daily life. If I get rashes once in a while, like I get rashes all the time from lupus, that's one thing. And like, it's weird. I get like permanent sunburns too. So that's a weird thing. I have a sunburn that like I've had for a year now. It's so weird. It's like my skin's like allergic to the sun or something. But so I don't really do tanning or anything like that. But yeah, so it's like little things like that. I'm like, I can deal with that. I can deal with a little rash once in a while or whatever. Or maybe my knee hurts once in a while. I'm like, that's fine, but I don't want to be exhausted every day of my life anymore. I'm like, I'm done with that. So like, especially this year, like I got really, really intentional with nutrition and with what I'm doing in the gym, because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to overcome this if I don't get out of my comfort zone a little bit, and if I don't really push myself. Like there's no way I'm going to be able to get through this, let alone overcome it and completely become symptom free. I'm like, that's not going to be possible if I don't take drastic measures. So that's kind of what I've been doing, is learning. That's why I got certified in nutrition and certified as a personal trainer, because I just wanted to learn. I wasn't even really wanting to be a coach. I just wanted to learn about it for myself, and so that I could be my own coach and my own scientist, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of like the approach I had. Like whenever I got super into, I never got certified or anything yet. So people ask me to train. I'm like, dude, I'll work out with you, but I don't train anybody, because I wanted to learn to know, okay, enough for, like you said, to be my own trainer, my own scientist, my own dietitian. Because I mean, in the long run, in the realistic term, it's like that's kind of what you need to do. And I feel like once you figure out what works best and how your body responds to things, it becomes more like autopilot. But some people like to think that they need a trainer barking at them, you know, the whole workout or for 10 years. It's like, if you really want it bad enough, and once you get the groove, you don't need all that. You just do a little bit of learning. You have to apply a little bit of effort, which many people just instantly don't. Like people forget Google's a thing. I've Googled a million things about nutrition or this or that. Of course, it throws you in a bunch of rabbit holes, but it's not science, you know. But no, that's great.
And I think it's good to also teach people how to be their own personal trainer and how to be their own coach. And that's kind of what we're doing with creating content and doing podcasts, is we're giving people the information that we have that helped us get to this point, and showing people that, yeah, you can do it yourself, and you can, here's where you go, here's how you learn, and you just got to start from somewhere. You got to start whether it's just walking, you know, for 20 minutes a day or whatever it is. You just got to start somewhere, and then it'll lead you to other places, and you'll keep learning more and more, as long as you don't stay in your comfort zone, as long as you do push yourself and challenge yourself a little bit to make change and to learn more about how your body works. And that's, I think, why getting diagnosed with an illness like that was almost kind of a blessing in disguise, because it's allowed me to really learn more about the human body and how things work, and I can help a lot of people with that knowledge. So I think it's in also, it helps that like my sister, she's a nurse, and my dad worked in the emergency room. So I have people in the medical field in my family. So that really has helped me too. Because like my sister, she understands a lot about how the illness works. And so sometimes, you know, I like to hear her perspective on things, and things that she maybe has experienced with her patients, with things she's learned through nursing school. And also I go to a lady that she has a med spa. So she does, like Botox and lip stuff and all that kind of stuff, but I don't do any of that. I get the vitamin injections that she does. So that's why I go there. I didn't even go there for all the other stuff. I was like, "Oh, I like this vitamin stuff is crazy." I'm like, "This is amazing," because the first time I got one, I was like, "Oh, I feel like a new woman." And so I went back again, and she like taught me a lot about not only about the vitamins and all the stuff that, she obviously makes money from, but she teaches me a lot about nutrition too, and she teaches me just about how the human body works because she's also a nurse. And finding people like that in your life that have that knowledge that can pass it along to you is incredible. And then I can pass it on to other people. And I didn't go to medical school. I didn't go to nursing school. I didn't even go to college. And I have all this knowledge. It's amazing.
I definitely agree. I've had a few people in my life, especially in the medical field, because I guess that and fitness, like they intermingle a lot. And it's like, yeah, you meet the right person that's a little knowledgeable, and they've taught me freaking so much about like my friend Miss Jennifer. She's been teaching me about scars, about nutrition, about the different effects. Like, did you know our skin has a polarity to it? It's like I think it's a negative pull, and then if whenever scar tissue heals, it's like a positive polarity or something. It could be vice versa, but to that effect. And like, because I didn't think about it, but where my scar is, like, bro, I have a nasty grip where they open up my back, like on my spine, to do the surgery on the vertebrae. But that, in theory, could be intermingling with a lot of the neuro signals trying to get down. Because like, the way the doctors explained it to me was, whenever all my spinal fluid leaked out, all the muscles around my spinal cord like did this, kind of went fight or flight, went protect mode. And so I'm thinking, okay, my whole wiring harness just got like kinked, right? So in theory, they're all still there. I just gotta learn where to send in the signals. And it's so weird. People don't understand, like, you forget how to operate and how to move things after so long. So it's like it's not like a baby trying to learn how to walk, because I've already done this, but it's like, oh shit, now I have to relearn how to do this and how to tell my body how to do this or that. It's such a weird concept, but it can't be impossible. That's kind of another thing of this got me on this journey. It's like, yeah, you think it's not impossible, or they thought it was impossible, but I was like, yeah, I don't know. I've seen crazier stuff done. So but yeah,
We're
dude.
stubborn.
Oh dude, stubborn. This is finally like the first time in my life that's starting to pay off. Only took 17 years, but better late than never.
That's right. Yeah. Being stubborn usually didn't get me anywhere before, but now I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm stubborn because it caused me to ask questions, to challenge things, to not believe everything that I hear, and to just kind of figure things out for myself a little bit more instead of just, if somebody tells me something, not just like, oh, well, they said it, so it must be true. Because that's kind of how I used to be. Like, I used to just believe everything everybody said. And then now I'm like, yeah, no, these people are full of crap. So
Right.
I'm gonna figure it out for myself, and ask more questions and learn about it myself, not just out of my ego because I think I know everything, but actually go and learn about it and challenge it, and find out, okay, well, maybe they were telling me the truth, or maybe they just didn't know that there's this other solution out there, or this other path that I can take that can get me to where I want to go. So, yeah, I think definitely being careful where I get my advice is a big thing. Especially when you're trying to do something that a lot of people don't pull off, or a lot of people don't want to do, or maybe people give up on easily. Anytime you're trying to do something like that, you're always going to have people that, and it's all love. It's a lot of times people just, they love you and they just want you to know, like, oh, we love you how you are. Like, you don't have to do all this, crazy stuff. Like, you can just be you how you are now. You're perfectly fine. And I'm glad people think that, but sometimes you're like, yeah, but I want to do more. I want to actually like make something out of my life. And maybe that's my ego talking at times, or maybe that's just me knowing that deep down there's something out there for me, and there's a better life out there for me, and I just got to go chase it.
Facts. You have to reach your fullest potential because I mean, no one can do it for you.
Nope.
But dude, we're definitely going to do another one of these for sure.
Yeah. This was awesome.
But yeah, no, definitely. I want to. I don't know, how often do you shoot them? Like once a week or?
Yep, once a week.
Okay. Do you go through and manually chop them all, or do you go and use like AI? I've been seeing a couple of like websites, or I guess AI is what they'd be considered, but it's like you could put in a long form thing and it'll go through and chop it up. So that's kind of what I'm
Oh,
excited.
that's
I'm gonna
crazy.
I'm gonna
So
see what it.
I haven't tried that. I'll have to look into that. That sounds like it would save me a lot of time. Um, but yeah, whenever I do the long form, obviously I just, you know, put the intro and whatever on it, and then I just pretty much throw it up. And I do solo episodes and guest episodes. So the guest episodes are pretty easy because it's just through Zoom, so I don't really have to line up the audio or anything like I do with the solo ones. The solo ones, I'll set up my camera and then I'll set up my audio and record them separately. And then I'll just line up the audio, add the intro and all that stuff. And then I'll put it up. I edit the MMA one a little bit more, just like to take out, like if I go on a rant for too long about something or whatever, like, cause those I like to be more straight to the point. These are kind of more like a conversation, so I don't like to edit it. I don't like to take anything out because I like it to feel and look like a real conversation. And then whenever I do like the clips, then I'll like take little nuggets from the conversation and put them in a clip and then put that on my Instagram and my Facebook. And then so people see like, hey, this is what we talked about in this episode. And then maybe they'll want to watch it, or maybe they don't have time to watch it and they just watch the clips, and that's, how they consume it, whatever works. Because I
Right.
know not everybody has an hour, every single week to take out of their day to watch my podcast or listen to my podcast. So that's why I like the clips, because it kind of gives me the ability to show everybody who I'm having on here or what I'm talking about and what this is all about. So then, maybe one day they do listen to one of the episodes if they see a guest that they're interested in learning about or a certain topic. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, I don't expect everybody to listen to it or watch it. I'm like, if you want to listen to it, you want to watch it, that's cool. I'm gonna keep doing it regardless. But yeah, so I keep it pretty simple because I do it all myself. So I'm like, I don't want to overcomplicate this and do it to the point where it's like feels like a job.
And you don't do it.
Yeah, because if I don't love doing it, I'm not gonna be able to do this for the rest of my life. So I have to love it, and this is something that I want to keep doing. Because it seriously, and I don't know if do you have a podcast? I don't think I asked you that yet.
Well, this is like my first. I've been doing a couple, so I'm just waiting on the dudes locally that I go shoot with to send all the content over to where I can go through and edit it. So this is like one of my first like official ones, I guess. But that's why I kind of want to get into the space because, like I said, I think it'd be cool, and it would definitely be cool to have a way to be able to like resurface a lot of the good content I've shot. Either the leg day fails or the wins and stuff like that. But actually making it to where it's something useful for someone other than just watching me do 10 leg kicks. It's like that kind of gets boring at least.
Right. Yeah. Well, and people, they like to see what you're doing, but they also want to hear what you have to say. So you got to do a little bit of both, I've found. And I think people really are going to want to hear what you have to say, and they're definitely going to want to see what you have to do too, because what you're doing is incredible. And yeah, and anything I can do to help you with that. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert. Like I learned all this myself. I mean, I had people that were mentors to me. I went to a seminar where we kind of learned a lot of this stuff. It was like an entrepreneurship seminar where they kind of taught us how to create content and how to use social media, to tell your story basically. So I kind of had a little bit of experience from learning from other people. But most of it, I mean, I just started from scratch. I DIY'd everything. The first stuff I made, I just made it on my iPhone. I didn't even have a camera. So, everybody starts somewhere, but anything I can do to help, let me know. Because I'm always trying to connect people, help people, whatever I can do. Because I know it's hard when you first start making content and it's like frustrating. It
Overwhelmed.
even still is frustrating. So definitely let me know if there's anything I can do for you to help out. And where can people find you? Where can people follow you?
So we have Inner Animals on TikTok, the Inner Animal Experience on Instagram, on my Facebook, just Sam Primeaux, my personal Instagram, Inner Animal Sam. If you Google Inner Animal, some stuff about me is gonna pop up. You know, no matter where you look. The website's Inner Animal Experience. Now the website is a little less to par. That because that's another thing I'm kind of struggling on. Like I'm not super tech savvy. I do know it needs to look better and operate better. So I'm trying to learn and do piece by piece, but I'll get frustrated if I play with it too long because I'm just not tech savvy. But the main platforms, you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I do have some stuff on YouTube, like some motivational shorts and stuff like that. So this is gonna be some awesome content to put on there too.
Yeah.
And come out, you know, because it's like it took me a while to kind of build up the confidence enough to be able to talk in front of the camera. So now that I figured that part out, okay, cool. Let me at least see what they want to hear about, you know, which is what I'm super curious about. Like, what do y'all want to hear about? What do y'all want to learn or see?
Yeah, well there'll be some fire clips from this one, I'm sure. And I'll be editing them later. So I'll let you know whenever I find one. I'm like, "Ooh, this is a good one." But yeah, it's fun. It's cool to like take something like a simple, this is so simple. It's a conversation. I mean, for all people know, we could have been on FaceTime just talking to each other, and then you post it and the whole world can see it. Like, to me, that's so cool that you can take a conversation between two people and share it with as many people as want to listen as possible. And I don't know if you were thinking about starting a podcast or if you ever wanted to, but if you do, let me know, because I think it would be really cool. And I love the name Inner Animal. That is awesome. You could even do just the Inner Animal podcast. I mean, that'd
That's
be great.
something to do with the Inner Animal, because like whenever I do the book, I want it to all kind of correlate and, you know, help it all grow, because like I feel like me unleashing my inner animal is what's gotten me this far. So if I could figure out the best way to teach someone else how to do it, look, they're gonna appreciate it somewhere in the long run, you know, make them feel like the superhero.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation. I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Hopefully I get to meet you one day. That would be amazing. I mean, the world is so crazy. You never know when we might might run into each other. Maybe at a UFC fight or something.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'd love to either come on again, or whenever I start a pod, we're gonna definitely have to do some more combos.
For sure.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, I appreciate you letting me chatter on for an hour or so. I really do. Yeah, yeah, no shit.
I don't even know. Oh, it's been good. That's good.
I'm about to say plenty of awesome snippets to get out of it then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This is awesome. I'm really looking forward to just seeing your growth and following your journey and just seeing where you take this next.
Heck yeah, I appreciate it. And definitely, yeah, stay tuned, because look, we're going to inspire the world. I don't know how it's going to look, but I know it's going to be there. So definitely, I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, thanks again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I will talk to you soon, my friend. You have a great rest of your Sunday.
All right, you too.
All right, bye.